Ducks fans, are you ready? You are listening to the Ducks and Pucks podcast. This is the #1 home for Anaheim Ducks talk and analysis. Here we go.
Well, welcome to the show. This is your host, Mike Walters, along with my co-host, Eddie Richard, and we're back finally. I know we were gone for, I guess a month and a half, 7-8 weeks, something like that. But the month of August was pretty boring. The month of September brought us a whole lot of Duck news. We have plenty of stuff to cover, Eddie. Good to be back.
Oh, yeah, it feels fantastic. I was getting bored. I was getting dry, seeing all these weird things getting posted, people just throwing their pitchforks up because of the fabrications on Twitter and social media. But, you know, having no hockey, I'm glad it's back, and I'm definitely glad the summer is over because I can't stand the heat. I like it when it's cold and gloomy. It just, something excites me. I don't know if it's hockey season too. That plays a factor.
Yeah, and as you talked about, a lot of stuff came up. We'll kind of talk about some of the rumors going on with some of the trades. We have some retirement news, some injury news, some quote-unquote new third jersey info. We'll talk about some of the games briefly, some of the maybe what the possible lineup will be on opening night, along with a whole bunch of other stuff. So we have a jam-packed show for you, and we'll get it started. I guess the best way to get it started is the beginning of the month came out with all kinds of different trade rumors. We had the Laine trade rumor and the Faulk trade rumor. And I think the best one was the Laine one, Eddie, because I guess there was a fake Mike Walters, if you will, out there on Twitter. I don't know if it was fake in the sense of that was his name or not. I mean, I know there's more Mike Walters than just myself, but there was a guy named Mike Walters on Twitter that made a couple posts and was saying that Patrik Laine was coming to the Ducks and there should be an announcement. And of course, everybody went nuts. My phone went off, social media text, phone calls. Everyone's asking me basically two questions. One, is that you? Which I said no. And two, what are the Ducks going to get for Laine? And I said, I haven't heard anything about a trade going down for Laine. So kind of a crazy start to the month of September. That other Mike Walters, I guess, deleted his Twitter account, so he doesn't exist anymore. Maybe there's still a possibility that Laine does get traded. I really doubt it's Anaheim, but kind of a weird start to the month of September with some of the rumors, Eddie.
Oh, yeah, people just flipped out, and I don't know if it was the lack of hockey. People were bored, but this one random account just pops up saying that has experience in 10 NHL teams, and he's an insider, and his quote-unquote source told him he didn't reveal it, and people just went crazy. I know some fan chats on Facebook, one guy was so adamant, this guy has experience in 10 different NHLs, like he knows his stuff, he's an insider, and he works with people. It's like, anyone can fabricate their little header thing. I can say, I don't know, I'm governor of California or something, or I'm president of the Ducks. And it's just ridiculous how people fall into things like that and they blow it out of proportion. I mean, this guy, whoever he is, he did his job. He wanted to troll and he wanted to get a rise out of people. He sure as hell did his job, but it's like people, we have their phones. Like, I bet you everyone listening right now has access to their phones within a few feet of them, or maybe inches, who knows. It's so easy to look up and kind of verify things like this, and there's no credible source that said that it was like Laine and the Ducks. It's just crazy how everyone flipped out over that. I thought it was pretty funny, and his name being Mike K. Walters too. Like, oh man, you have an evil twin or a doppelganger out there, Mike.
Yeah, I don't know. My middle initial is P as in Paul, so that part I know is different, but the first and last name was the same. So when the whole Laine news came out, of course, like you said, people went nuts. People were screenshotting the tweets that he was posting. I was getting them text to me. They were sent to me in social media, messengers and all that stuff. So that news pretty much died down. He deleted his account, and nothing was ever heard after that. Then the next big one that came out, and this was from credible sources like Elliot Freeman and others, was the Faulk news that Carolina was looking to move him. Then when that news came out later in the day from a couple people in the Carolina media world, they were then saying that, like we said, it was a trade. They're looking at Anaheim, and then they added, well, Andre Casse was part of the trade. So then when that happened, again, like you're talking about, Eddie, everybody in Anaheim Nation went nuts on social media. A lot of people upset about, this discussion of Casse being sent for Faulk. And of course, we just realized as we recorded this podcast now that he ended up going to St. Louis instead, and that Casse was not part of the trade, or at least it was never finalized. He was part of the discussions, but everyone was going nuts, even though we didn't know the whole details of the trade. All we knew was there was Faulk on one side, Casse on another side, and possibly some other pieces to this, which it was never verified by any of the official sources, what the other parts of this were going to be. And then we got from Eric Stevens in his article in The Athletic that, Bob Murray was upset because the media people in Carolina were talking about it, and he felt that people within the Hurricane organization had kind of leaked out the discussions, which, Bob Murray's old school. He doesn't like that kind of stuff. He likes to try to, do whatever he's going to trade. And then if it's going to happen, he likes to tell the player, directly from himself or his staff or whatnot. So that went nuts for a little while. I was kind of hoping that some kind of trade like that would happen, though. I know a lot of people didn't want Casse to be sent, but we talked about some of the podcasts over the summer about the Ducks' lack of depth on defense, specifically on right-handed shooting defensemen. So at first I wanted to see what was going to happen, if it was going to go down, and then it ended up not going down. Eddie, what did you think about this? Because we had, a couple of weeks of all this craziness. We had all the Line A stuff that died down. Then we had the stuff with Faulk and Casse. What was your take on this second, possible trade rumor that obviously it didn't work out?
It piqued my interest a little bit. It's telling me that, this might not be a retooling thing, another word for a rebuild, if he's trying to bring in a quality player like Justin Faulk. I was interested, and Casse being sent away, I was kind of like, oh, that kind of sucks, because I like him, but I mean, we're getting a quality right shot defenseman that put up good numbers, and I think if a few of the categories he was up there with the Carlson and Burns kind of stats over the last few seasons. So I was interested in that, and I wouldn't have mind seeing that trade go down. It shows that the Ducks are serious this season, and who knows what Casse being injury prone and what he can do and what you can't do with the Ducks. I still remember everyone being flipped out about Carlson being traded, and then the year he had in Vegas. But I mean, who knows if he would have had that year in Anaheim? I mean, he wasn't going to get that opportunity that he did in Vegas to score that, that having that career season. And same with Casse. Like, if this trade would have happened and he would have went off and scored 30, 40 goals, everyone's going to be mad. But how would you know if he's going to have that same production with the Duck system? I mean, it's just, it's one of those things where you never know what's going to happen. The only thing I was worried about, too, is the kind of contract term and dollar amount and any clauses that were going to be given to him. Anaheim wasn't part of his, his list to come, his 10-team list to come to. And, not knowing, pretty much going from Carolina, which is a contending team, to Anaheim, which is kind of that question mark right now. I'm pretty sure he was going to want more money than the extension he signed with St. Louis for $6.5 million. And then I wanted to touch on too, Mike, as far as like the Carolina media or whatever, them leaking things out, being the bunch of jerks that they are. I think it was more a strategic move. It's like, okay, let's leak what they're doing with the Ducks, and now this gets other teams like, oh wait, we were interested in him, we were pulling back, or we didn't offer enough. Let's go and up our offers and send more offers and get some more, play on him if they really wanted him. So I think that kind of helped bring his value up a little bit more, knowing that a trade was, our trade talks were conducted between Anaheim and Carolina.
So you're saying a GM might have leaked something to get a better trade? No, they never do that, Eddie. Never.
Oh.
No, it's
who would do such a thing?
Yeah, exactly. No, it's a very valid point. You could say that maybe the GM in Carolina did want to put that out there. He was talking to maybe a couple other teams. Obviously, we know one of them was St. Louis, but maybe he didn't like what he was seeing from the other teams and was like, well, hey, Anaheim's over here doing this, and that, and maybe raised up the ante a little bit. I mean, if he did, it's very smart on his part. I think for the Ducks on their side, The issue was probably the term. There was discussions of the amount being between 6.5 million to 7. He ended up taking this deal for 6.5 with St. Louis, which I would have been fine with because the Ducks do have the cap space, as we all know, to take on somebody like that, especially if Kase or someone of a similar value was going back as well. But I think the term was kind of the issue in this deal, Eddie. Obviously, with the stuff going on with Eaves and Kessler and these injuries and whatnot, the long-term contract with Perry, and all these things that now Murray's looking back on, like maybe I gave too much of a longer contract to certain players. I mean, you can't predict injuries, right? As far as Perry not doing as well, I mean, it is what it is. But he also was injured to add to that in addition to the issues going on there. So maybe the 7 years was too much. Maybe Faulk was like, I'll go to Anaheim, but, I want 6 or 7 years out of this deal. And Murray's probably sitting there going, nah, I'll do 3, 4, maybe 5. That's what I'm thinking might have been part of the reason why Murray pulled back, other than the fact that the news got leaked. Obviously, he was upset about that, which that's typical Murray. He doesn't like things to get out while they're still being worked in progress. So I could see that. But for my take, I think Murray looked at that term and probably said, nah, we'll take a pass on it, Eddie.
Yeah, same here. And we all know he's more cautious, and he doesn't like to it's rare when he makes those things, and it usually happens, a few months into the season where he'll do just like a 1-for-1 or like a Pedersen for Sprague or Henrique for Vatanen kind of trade. And it would have been shocking, surprising if he would have made that trade, but I think he pulled back. He just, for the dollar amount, or not really dollar amount, because $6.5 million is good. I'm thinking he would probably want it more coming to Anaheim, being in kind of a retooling stage. But I think the term probably got to him, like 7 years. That's a long time to pay a guy $6.5 million. If he starts declining, then you have another contract. It's like, another bad contract. You have to buy him out, which is another bad thing to do. Or just keep him and have him in a bottom 6 role, or scratch him here and there, and you're paying the guy $6.5 million to sit in the broadcasting booth and watch the game. So I think all in all, it was a smart decision on his play, especially if he wanted that longer term, and just have confidence in what we have right now. I'm still worried about our defense, especially on the right side. And our top 4 pretty much defensemen. We'll discuss our lineups later, but that's the only thing that still kind of worries me with the Ducks.
Yeah, we did mention that on the show before. We can kind of talk about that now, the defense and the lineup. We actually have a fan question, too, about this. But if you're looking at the Ducks in terms of defense, as we talked about, the top 3, you have Lindholm, Manson, and Fowler. We all know how Manson struggled last season, so how is he going to do this season? Also, a quick update on Fowler. Fowler deflected another puck and took it in the face and got some stitches in that preseason loss to Arizona this last weekend. But they're saying that he's going to be okay, should be good to go at the beginning of the season. But even with that in mind, you've got those 3 guys, and then you're trying to figure out who you're going to put in after that. So you've got Gooley, Larson, Delzato, Holzer pretty much are your other ones in there. And, one of the questions was, someone asked if the Ducks would go after Ristolainen from Buffalo. His contract is just around $5.5 million, and he's got a couple years to go over there. Another right-handed shot defenseman. The one thing about this whole Faulk news is, like you talked about, Eddie, is at least Murray is trying to rectify some of the stuff he has going on with this team. And obviously, as you and I talked about, it's the lack of depth on defense, specifically the right-hand shooting defenseman. So if he's going after Faulk and it didn't work out, I wouldn't be upset with him going after Ristolainen. That's another guy that, I do like what he's doing. He's done pretty good point-wise. He's getting, 40-something points a season. He's been getting 30-plus assists in the last 4 years. Definitely a guy that can help out and do some things back there, and obviously give some depth on the right side. So if the Ducks were to go after him, I would be okay with it. Of course, it would depend on who's going to get traded or whatever. And I know if I mention Kase, everyone's going to get upset. So I don't know if he'd be thrown out there. But if the Ducks had to give up a forward, I would rather them give up someone like a Ritchie and maybe a pick or something like that. Obviously, Ritchie wouldn't be straight up. But if you want to talk about players that you're trying to move out and do some stuff, that might be something to try to work out. I don't know if it will happen, but I would be happy if they tried to do something like that or a player similar, Eddie.
Oh yeah, that was a good question by Benjamin on Twitter. I like Ristolainen. He's still young. He has a great 5.4 million average cap hit. It's not bad at all. He's had 40 points in the last 4 consecutive seasons. Puck moving defenseman that can quarterback a power play and blast it from the blue line. And Buffalo needs some secondary scoring, and they need that. And I don't think it's gonna take Richie. It's probably gonna take Richie and more, but I think they're gonna want someone maybe for like one-on-one, someone like a Silverberg to make. Like I can see a Silverberg for Ristolainen and maybe like a lower tier prospect or a lower draft pick, like 3rd or 4th round draft pick, to make that happen. But I doubt they're gonna even consider trading Silverberg. They just signed him to an extension, and he's tore it up last season, so hopefully he can do that again this season. He'd be a good one to get if we can land him down and not give up too much. That'd be great. If I'd be willing to throw Kasse's name out there, and I know he's injury prone, but like Kasse, maybe Richie, and have Ristolainen come back, and maybe a 3rd or 4th draft pick from Buffalo too. I mean, that's something that can work out. We have a surplus of forwards that can replace, Kasse and Richie's spot. And we don't really know what we have yet in Kasse, the injuries that he had. I mean, he has the potential to be a 30-goal scorer, but you never know. And if a trade did happen, and I was talking to you about this before, like if a trade happened with Carolina, you have no idea. Oh, yeah, I said that before. You have no idea what's going to happen with these players and what system's going to work better for them. Ristolainen might thrive and turn out to be a top defenseman, and you can have Kasse end up tearing it up and being a top offensive player. You never know with these things. The trades and different systems, the new scenery, the players can just do something different. But he's one of the players that I would like to see a little more than Faulk. But I doubt it's going to happen. I think we have to put our hopes down for that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not too big on it, but I mean, it's definitely one that I would look into it and see if something could be worked out. So, we'll see if Murray does try to do something else before the season starts, or maybe in the beginning of the season with the defense. The Ducks have played some games so far. I don't put a lot of weight into all these games, but they're in the midst of a whole bunch of games this week, depending on when you're listening to the show. But they had the rookie camp, which they won 2 out of 3 of those games. They beat the Kings and Vegas. They lost to the Sharks in those 3 games. Steele and Jones look pretty good there. So far in the preseason, they beat San Jose, and then they lost in a shootout to Arizona. And then this last game that we watched before recording the show was the one against LA, which I was really irritated with. I did not like the way the Ducks played in that game. I mean, granted, they're not going with the full lineup, but they just had a slow start in that game against LA. And they tried to recover later in that game, but weren't able to do it. So, but it's the preseason, and the rookie games I don't really count either. Same thing. You have all these new players out there. You don't have the full lineup and everything like that. If you're looking at the forwards, it's kind of an interesting thing here that the Ducks have done. They've had Richie actually in the top 2 lines a couple of these games, which I'm not a fan of, Eddie, but some of the lineups they've had, we can talk a little bit about this. They've had Richie up there with Getzlaf and Kasse, Raquel with Steele and Silverberg, Comtois with Henrique and Terry, and then Jones with Short and Sprong. Just some of the lines that they've had. I don't have a problem with all these guys being the forwards, Eddie, but the thing I don't like, if the lines are going to be like this or something similar to that, I don't like how high up there Richie is. I just really think he should be bumped down a little bit. I'd rather see Raquel up there with Getzlaf, and Comtois and Jones, I think, are going to be more explosive than Richie. So that's just kind of my take on the forward situation the way it is right now. Obviously, it's nothing set in stone. They've been playing these games and shuffling the lines around. But in terms of offense, what do you think, Eddie, given the couple games that have been played already?
I think Jones is making a statement. I don't think he wants to be sent down, and he's making it really difficult for anyone to even consider him being sent down. And I rather see him take that top line and Richie, go down to that 4th line role and maybe earn his spot back up. I can remember a few seasons ago when they demoted Perry to the 3rd line, and all of a sudden it just lit a fire under his ass and he started scoring. that Scotty Perry came back and that passion came back. I don't know if starting off Richie in that fourth line either is going to fire him up and get him going again and hopefully get to the potential that we all hope that 10th round draft pick is going to be, or he just might kind of just be like, oh, whatever, I'm in the fourth line, I'm just going to go through the motions, and that just shows the character that he has. That he's a professional athlete, so I doubt he's going to have that. It's probably going to fire him up, but I like what I've seen with Jones, and I mean, Comtois, you guys, everyone knows my feelings toward him. If I can just, clone him and put him on like 2 or 3 lines, I'd probably do that too. But yeah, you're right though with Richie. I want to see him maybe a little lower, and I don't understand why they keep trying to put him on that top line. It hasn't worked for the last few seasons they've done it, and I don't know why they keep trying to make it work. I thought it was just a Carlisle thing. And I hope, it changes, and I hope, Dallas really sticks to the point where, the best players will earn the spot and the best players will earn their line spot, basically, to be that top 4, top 6 offensive machines. So, I mean, that's all I can say about that. I have, on my lineup, just changed a few things. Raquel gets Coste, that top line, Comtois, Henrique, Silverberg, second line. Jones, Steele, and Sprong, that third line, Richie, Rowney, and Shore.
Yeah, that's a lineup I like a lot better. I think that would be one that would be suited more for this team. One that would look a little bit more balanced. That's kind of what I'm looking at with this as the Ducks try and go in there and face the beginning of the season with what they have now. Unless, of course, they trade someone and move some stuff around, which they could do as well. A part of the issue too that they have is, I hate to bring up the injury news again, but as we mentioned with Fowler a little bit earlier, Sam Steele is now injured. They said he has a lower body injury. It's not really sure how long he's going to be out, so I'm hoping this isn't a repeat of really the last 2 seasons. So like I said, you have Fowler and Steele already. Like they mentioned, Fowler's a minor issue, so he should be good to go at the beginning of the season. Hopefully Steele's not out too long. But I'm not upset with what the Ducks top 4 lines, and I think the offense will be fine for the Ducks this season. I'm more concerned about the defense and leaning on Gibson again. Obviously, we know it's Gibson and Miller in net. There's really no discussion to be had there in terms of the lineup. But I would like the Ducks to try to add someone on defense. The one that's kind of not really worked out in some of these games is Hakapa. He's not been playing as well as I thought he would in some of these games. He's been getting burned and out of position. So I think he's finding his way out of the Ducks lineup. I mean, I would see Gooley, Larson, Delzato, and Holzer really filling in the other spots in there. That was one a little bit surprising to me. I thought he would have played a little better, but it looks like he still needs some work and whatnot. So that's where the Ducks are at right now. They got a couple more games to go. And we're going to try and have more shows too. Just a little programming note in the middle of the show here. I know last season we kind of, did a show here or there, things went down, but Eddie and I are going to try and do one every week at least, if not more. We'll see how it goes, but at least have a regular schedule, go over the games and a little bit more depth. Obviously, like I said, it's preseason, so we're not going into it too much. I've been able to watch most of them. As you guys know, some of them weren't on TV, unfortunately, so you had to listen to them, but that's what we're going to be aiming to do. So we'll be talking about the games and the injuries and how they're doing, along with the news that comes up and whatnot. So, like I said, Ducks are in the middle of preseason right now. They have a couple injuries that they're trying to deal with. And there's a couple former Ducks too, Eddie, that have injuries. The one, big one, Corey Perry, has a broken foot as of September 13th. Apparently he rolled it while taking a awkward step, I guess. And they're hoping he's going to be ready for the start of the season, but he's kind of up in the air. And then you also have Brandon Montour that hurt his hand. So a couple former Ducks, just to throw some news in there so you don't feel bad about just our players, Eddie. But we're going to have to watch it. If Steele's out for a little bit, then Ducks are going to have to, update the forward lines and figure it out from there.
Oh, yeah. Perry, too, if he starts the season off when he's supposed to, game 1 when Dallas plays, if he plays injury-free, October 24th will be his 1,000th game against the Anaheim Ducks. Seems like it was written, it was a fairy tale, like, okay, we're going to trade you at this time, and you're going to play your 1,000th game against your former team. You can't make this up. It's like a script. And also for you Perry fans that are still like loving him and you absolutely adore him, good news for you. You can live at the house that he lived at. He's selling his property for $6.725 million. So if you're one of those fans and you're able to secure his house that's up for sale, kudos to you. And be sure to send us the barbecue invite. We'd love to go and check out Corey Perry's old house.
Yeah, and if you want to buy the house out there, you can go out there and maybe watch him play. I know one of the fans talked to me and said he just moved out to Dallas. He was joking, saying that he had that plan with Corey Perry as well. So there's that to look forward to as well. And with the Ducks, there's other news out there too. The team did announce that Kessler and Eaves are out for the season. And unfortunately, I actually had a chance to catch up with Patrick Eaves on the golf course recently, and he told me that he is pretty much done, that he's going to retire for the game. He said that his doctors actually circled back to the original diagnosis, and the Guillain-Barré syndrome that he originally was supposed to have, the GBS as they call it. He ended up saying that he does actually have that, and he won't be able to come back and play professionally. It was, very, very disheartening. I mean, he's a really nice guy, a nice person to talk to, and the Ducks are going to be without him this season, and nobody's going to be able to get him, next season after that and beyond, unfortunately. So he's going to be gone. As we said, Kessler is gone. We don't know if he's going to officially retire. He may come back next season. Who knows? The other one that I also caught up with too was Kevin Bieksa. And I asked him if he was going to come back. He was not a big fan of Randy Carlyle, and even predicted that a lot of people predicted that Randy Carlyle was going to be out. But he had said before the season last year with him getting booted that he was going to be gone. So I asked him, hey, are you going to come back? And he said, no, he's going to keep doing some of that broadcast stuff you've seen him doing, may appear on some shows and whatnot. So he retired as well. And I think there was one more Eddie out there, another former Duck that retired.
Oh yeah, Ben Lovejoy, our favorite Reverend. I can't even say that. I'm just gonna say Lovejoy. I screwed up that word 3 times, but he retired, and I think he took a job as an analyst with NHL Network. He's talking. So congratulations to him. He was another fan favorite, just like Patrick Eaves. Such a nice guy, and always made time for fans. And he's just one of those players too that came out there and worked hard, and it was glad to have him on the Ducks, and we wish him all the best and his retirement, as well as Patrick Eaves. And I hope Patrick Eaves takes a role with the Ducks somewhere in the system, developing youth players or some kind of position that keeps him with the Ducks, because he's such an amazing guy. He was an instant fan favorite. The first few days he was traded, he's just always so polite and nice to fans. And when he was healthy, he worked hard, and we saw some chemistry with Getzlaf on that top line for a while. So I wish him all the best as well. Everyone that's retiring, it's fortunate too for Eaves. He has to retire like that. I always say, I hate when a player has to be forced to retire. I like to see a player that just chooses on his own time. It's always unfortunate when you're forced to do something. And I'm pretty sure he wasn't ready to, step down yet and hang up the skates. It's unfortunate for him, but I'm pretty sure he'll have a career later down the road doing something with hockey, or announcing, talking, or hopefully a role with the Ducks.
Yeah, I did ask him about that too. I forgot to mention that, what his immediate plans were since everything's done now as far as playing in the NHL. And he said that he didn't really have any immediate plans in terms of hockey stuff. He's just going to take his time and spend it with his friends and family, which is what you would expect. And like you said, I'm in agreement. It's frustrating when you cannot go out on your own terms, that you have to, be forced out like this. And it was a struggle the last couple of years. He only played a couple games 2 seasons ago. Last year he played 7. And he just was never able to get out there and do his thing. He had the shoulder issue too as well. So unfortunate news for him. Wish him the best. In terms of the Ducks cap situation, we're looking at this, bringing in Faulk at, at 6.5. We talked about Ristolainen at 5.4 and whatnot. But with Eaves going on the long-term injury reserve, Kessler as well, the Ducks cap space and cap friendly, they have right now about $8.5 million. So they have plenty of money to go do stuff and pick up players and whatnot. And they have those couple guys that they can tap into for injury reserve as well. So the Ducks do have money out there to go do something. I don't know if they're going to do it or not, but I mean, they have a big chunk there. They have the $8.5 million right now, and if you count those two guys' contracts, you're talking about possible another $10 million. So there's plenty of room for the Ducks to do something and go pick up somebody. That's why I like the Faulk trade. The term maybe not so much, which, like I said, Murray didn't like. So that's where the Ducks' financial situation is, and I feel like that's what they need to do. You look at that Faulk trade, and it makes sense because he ended up going to a contender, St. Louis, where the Ducks, unfortunately, right now they aren't a contender. In this, the way it's shaping up right now. I mean, I think they are going to do better than the Kings, if anything. I know they lost this preseason game, whatever, but I still think the Ducks can make the playoffs. The biggest thing is really the decor and how they're going to perform with that. Offensively, got a lot of young kids in there. That's why we put out that one tweet about Daddy Getzlaf getting upset. I mean, you look at the forwards, you got Getzlaf on there, who is, basically the senior guy, and then all these, younger players. I mean, it's crazy to see the turnover on this offense. But if the Ducks can sustain a regular forecheck on offense, I think they have a good chance at making the playoffs at least this season. But I could see why Faulk didn't want to come to Anaheim. He's looking at a team that's, like you said, quote unquote, rebuilding or retooling. So then instead he goes to the Stanley Cup contending team. Obviously the former reigning champs or current champs until this next season's over. So it makes sense there. And with this team, I'm still excited about the season. I want to see what's going to happen. I think they have a good chance. If somebody on defense, if we don't go get somebody of the defense, who I look to, Eddie, is I look to Larson to hopefully step up in that fourth spot, or maybe Gooley. They've both been playing pretty decent so far. If one of them can go up there and get in that fourth spot and solidify a role, then maybe the Ducks have a better chance. Like I said, I still would like them to try and go pick someone up, but if they don't, that's where I kind of see a large part of this season, I guess putting some weight on it, so to speak, would be between those two players. What do you think?
Oh yeah, I also think that our top three of Lindholm, Manson, and Fowler, I think they need to step up a lot. They are incredible defensemen. They have the ability to be that great defenseman, and they just seem not to. I don't know I don't want to say keep developing, because they're all quote unquote veteran players. I mean, they're all older compared to all the younger guys that are coming in. But I think it heavily relies on them to step up and go that extra mile and be the mentor for the younger guys too. You don't want some younger guy coming in and showing you up. And it's kind of sucks seeing Cam down on that second line, because he was compared to Scott Niedermayer when he was first drafted, about his smooth skating, his puck moving style, and him dropping to that second spot. I think he should be, our top defenseman. Not saying that he should be like elite style, but he should be one of the top 15 defensemen in the league. And I don't know, I just think they all need to figure out what's going on in those top three players, and they need to step up, because last season was just terrible. Manson, and I keep harping on Manson, not because I don't like him. I like Manson too. I like his style of play. But last season, I just saw a different Manson. He wasn't that Manson boom that everyone saw a season before that. So I want to see them, each of them, take that extra responsibility and step up in that role and eat those extra minutes up and make each of those chances count. I mean, I wrote in my article, we'll discuss a little bit. Shoot the damn puck. You guys were terrible last season, and I'll just quote it from my article about all those people that scream, shoot, 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 how annoying it is. They're right, and they were validated on screaming that last season, because the pucks weren't going in. Our offense wasn't shooting, and they were just trying that dump and chase. You have your points open most of the time when the players or other teams are collapsing on your offense, because they got used to that dump and chase style. Send it back to your points and just have them blasted on net and have someone in front with their stick down. Just get some more shots, get the goalie moving. So I think it's the main responsibility is going to be on them. But Gooley and Larson, they have a great opportunity right now. The Ducks don't have that top four, so that top four spot, that one spot's open. So it's going to be interesting to see both of them battle up and see who steps up and who solidifies that top four and who can, hopefully, just knock on wood, but hopefully maybe they just turn out to be that defenseman like Carlson was for Vegas, how he just sprouted out and became that top player. Hopefully, Larson or Gooley with the opportunity, they just sprout out and they be that top player.
Yeah, and you mentioned the article that you wrote. It was the one, if you guys didn't catch it, it was called "What Anaheim Fans Want," and we can talk about it now. You mentioned the first part about shoot the damn puck, quote unquote, which I thought was hilarious, and you're right. I mean, there's times that the Ducks last season need to shoot the puck a little bit more, but sometimes it was positioning too. They were trying to take these perimeter shots. They weren't getting in there. And you talked about it later in the article, and we've talked about this on the show. You talked about dirty Ducks, and not in the sense of, we don't mean like run around and rip people's heads off and take stupid penalties. That's not what we're talking about necessarily being dirty Ducks, but we're talking about getting into those dirty areas, getting in front of the net, getting at the side of the net, getting those deflections and rebounds and things like that, which we really haven't seen the Ducks do too well as of late. So that's a huge thing that I agree on that you wrote in there. And also the part about the man advantage. We saw that in this last preseason game when they played LA. They had a 5-on-3 and they couldn't do a whole lot with it. And how many times have we seen that where the Ducks 5-on-4 they're not able to convert too well? But even 5-on-3, it's like you would think that they would have a really good chance of 5-on-3. I almost think sometimes the Ducks are better 5-on-4. I hate to say that, but sometimes because you see that 5-on-3, the other team gets in a triangle, and the Ducks are just passing it all around. It's like, well, you got to go in front of the net and still, get a screen, get a deflection, get a tap-in goal, things like that. Crowd the net, blind the goalie, do those things to block his vision. That's what you're going to have to do. I mean, if you're passing around the perimeter in any situation, 5-on-5, 5-on-4, 5-on-3, if the goalie's going to see the puck, you're not going to make it hard for him. And I mean, you know that, Eddie. You play hockey. I know it's beer league, but you play hockey. You understand that because you play that position. I really agree with you in this article. And we can talk about some of the other points in here too. But the big thing is the dirty Ducks, and like you said, take advantage of the man advantage.
Oh, exactly. And I'm good. I'm glad you touched on that part of the dirty Ducks part. Like I said in the article, I'm not saying go and intentionally injure someone, but let them know you're there. Let them know that they don't have that extra second to make that perfect pass. Like, I want them to come to Honda Center and fear playing the Ducks, like, oh man, we got to play this team. Oh, like we have to keep our head up, or hey, we can't go that much faster because we have to have our head up and see where the Ducks are, because if not, they're going to catch us with a big hit and force them to cough up the puck and make mistakes. Like, no one wants to get hit. I don't care how big and bad you are and how tough you think you are. The thought of someone coming at full speed and just crushing you, it's going to make you just think and be aware, just for that little split second that can screw up a play, and the Ducks can go on a odd man advantage or something like that. And also about the fighting too. The Ducks dropped in fighting, and it's not about just go out there and I want to see UFC kind of stuff like that. No, I want the fighting to happen when warranted. If the Ducks are down, hey, let's energize the crowd. I mean, we know Honda Center isn't the loudest building in the NHL, and sometimes when two guys start fighting, especially from the Ducks, Honda Center lights up, and it just gets everyone energized and that much into the game. And for those next 5 to 10 minutes, everyone's adrenaline's up, everyone's yelling, the chance of "Let's go Ducks" is going, and the Ducks seem to feed off that energy from the fans. I want to see a little bit more of that. And I touched it off. The last part of it was scream like the team had a 3-goal comeback. I think we need to be louder and show some more support. I know last season it was really difficult, but the seasons before that, when we had success, we didn't really have that fan engagement. And I just want to see it. I mean, you guys buy your tickets. You have the right to do whatever you want, like within the law. Don't go crazy and stuff and throw things on the ice, but just support the team a little bit. If you have to just chug a couple more of their probably $19 beers now over there just to get your nerves going, just let them know that you're there to support them, because us screaming and supporting the team goes a long way. That Edmonton comeback, unfortunately, I wasn't at the game. I was watching at home, but I think that's probably the loudest I've ever seen or heard Honda Center. The games I've been to, the games I watched, I couldn't even hear the announcers talking. Everyone was just going nuts. And I was just kicking myself in the ass because I had to get sick and I couldn't make that game. And it's one of those regrets. Like, Like when we beat Vancouver, was it 9-2 when we beat them? Oh man, I came back. I was on leave from the military. I think my second leave, and my buddy, I had tickets to go to that game. My buddy goes, "Hey, let's go to the bar and have a couple drinks." And then I'll have my his girlfriend drive us to the game. Oh yeah, cool. So if you guys go out with friends, have a couple drinks mean, yeah, all you. We get there around 3:00. All of a sudden, I look up. The Ducks are starting the game. I'm like, oh man! And then goal. I'm like, why couldn't I have been there? I was like, man. But yeah, just get louder. I mean, support your team. Everyone goes here to have a good time. I'm pretty sure, everyone gets some stress, and life is stressful. So you have that 2, 3, 4 hours to just relax and enjoy yourself, and not have the stress of everyday life, but the stress of watching the Ducks. Just scream a little bit. I mean, just go in there, just yell once. Just like, yeah, let's go Ducks. Just once. If everyone did that once, that building would just come up a little louder.
Yeah, I mean, I agree 100%. I mean, it's some of the problem too is we have these tickets that are sold from business people or whatever that buy in the tickets and they sell them to whoever, and we get those fans from the other teams, and you all know who those annoying fans are. So that's part of the problem too, as well. But getting back to the team, as far as them trying to do better this season too, some of the numbers to look at from last season that they're going to have to do to improve is, the special teams. 17% efficiency on the power play, 79.7% on the penalty kill. Both of those are towards the bottom. They're not the bottom of the league, but they're in the bottom half of the league. Both of those aren't going to get it done. You look at the shots on goal for the Ducks. They had 27.7, which was the worst in the league. So when you talk about shooting the puck, like Eddie mentioned in his article, I don't really see how you can argue against him. They had 27.7 per game, which is 31 out of 31 teams. That's terrible. I mean, you're not scoring goals anyways. We saw that with the team and the goals for and the goals against. The Ducks, again, last place, 2.39 goals for, and they were giving up just over 3 against. And I'm not saying this to bash the Ducks or anything like that. Obviously, last season, a whole bunch of different things went on. We had a coach that the team didn't want to follow. We had injuries beyond everybody, which I'm not making that as an excuse. I'm just stating that that's the facts. And, we had players that were out on both sides of the puck. And basically the Ducks leaned on the goalie, Gibson, the whole time, which Eddie mentions that in his article too, about getting in front of the goalie, supporting him. I don't want to see Gibson headlocking anybody. I mean, it was entertaining, I'm not going to lie, last season to see him do that. But I don't want to see him get frustrated like that. You don't want to get to that point where he's got to start taking shots at players because his teammates aren't doing it for him. That's a problem. And the Ducks got to that point last season. And I don't blame Gibson. I'm not saying he shouldn't have done it. I'm sure if Eddie was in that position, he would have done it too, given the nonsense that was going on. But there was a lot of things going on. Like we said, injuries on both sides, teams not standing up for him. But they're not taking shots. They're not scoring on the power play. They're not killing off penalties. I mean, the Ducks really had it rough. And I mean, to only be 2 games under 500 last year, 35, 37, and 10, despite all the craziness that went on. You remember they did turn it up a little bit towards the end. They played better towards the end of the season. It was still amazing to see how the Ducks did. But I'm just saying these are things that they're going to have to work on. A lot of the things that Eddie mentioned in that article, and if you haven't read it, go back and read it, what Anaheim fans want. There's a lot in there. There's a lot of truth to it. And I think I am still optimistic, though. I don't mean to be gloom and doom with these stats and everything, but it's just to reiterate what Eddie wrote. And I think that the Ducks can turn around. I think with Dallas Eakins in there, I've read some of the articles now, and we also had posted up the one, if you didn't see it, where he did the interview. I transcribed that one. It took me hours to do it, but Phil had gone to the event. I couldn't make it. He actually recorded on his phone, and I have that whole interview on there. So if you didn't see that, that's also up on the website. But I like everything that Dallas Eakins is saying. I like the direction that he's taking the team. In the offseason, he went and met with Getzlaf. He went and met with all these other players. They're talking about him being more of a new age coach, understanding how to motivate players, how to get players together. Of course, he's coached a ton of these young guys in San Diego. So I'm optimistic. For me, the other reason why I mentioned all these stats is I think that the Ducks can only go up from there. That's the way I look at it, Eddie. The only thing knock on wood would be injuries. But other than that, I really think that this team's going to improve. And I think all those numbers that I mentioned, you can throw them all out the window, obviously, because we start the season 0-0-0. But I think they are going to get in a better state of mind to start the season. If you also haven't checked out some of those articles that Eric Stevens has written on The Athletic, I highly recommend it. Some great pieces on there. Also, Jordan Samuels Thomas as well writes some good ones on there too. So, I mean, what's your take, Eddie? I mean, like we said, all these stats, you look at last season, the Ducks barely finished under 500 despite all being last in some of these categories or in the bottom half of the league. Now the new coach coming in. What's your feel? You think the Ducks turn it around, make the playoffs, or don't make the playoffs? What do you think?
That's kind of a tough one right now. I'm not really sure what to expect next season, and I kind of like that now. Like before, okay, we expect the Ducks to make the playoffs, and then we're worried about, okay, what are they going to do in the playoffs? And it's kind of hit or miss. It's a brand new system basically, so we got to just go from scratch. All I want to see from the Ducks, if they make the playoffs, if they don't make the playoffs, I just want to see them improve on everything that was mentioned in my article and everything the points that I missed as well. I want to see them just improve on everything. And one of the main things I want to see them improve of, and I definitely want to see the physical, the hits and the fights, but that's not my main thing. I think the main thing I really want them to do is play a 60-minute game. If they play a full 60-minute game and they lose because the other team just outplayed them, then fine. At least you went and played. You could lose with pride. At least you went out there and gave it your all. I mean, there's always, those nights where the puck doesn't go your way or the ref, throws his hand up for questionable calls. But I think that's my main point I want to see for the Ducks next season. Definitely to improve overall on just their game and build off this new system, and hopefully it gets more success. And if it doesn't work out this season, it's going to be hard to blame the coach. It's going to be a point where you have to turn around and start blaming the players. But like you said too, I mean, some of these stats are kind of bad. It's not trying to be discouraging, but trying to look at the silver lining of it, I guess. Next season, hopefully they'll improve, and I really think they will with the new system. And Dallas seems to be a real players coach, going out to Sweden, taking Raquel out to dinner with his significant other, and really showing that he gives a damn and he cares, and he's allowing these players to let them experiment too and do different things and adapt to that variable change when they're in games or they're losing or something's not working. Like in hockey, players or any sport, if something's not working, you can't just keep doing the same thing and expect the same result. You got to change it up and just do something different. Like I played beer league. I mentioned it last show or something. I had my worst ever point and goal drought. I had 8 games where I only had 1 assist, and I was getting discouraged and I was getting frustrated. And I thought about just maybe it's time for me to stop playing if I can't get a goal in 8 games. I've never had a drought like that, and honestly, I just changed up my game, changed my attitude, and when I had a breakaway, I closed my eyes actually and shot and it scored and got that monkey off my back. But Mike, so out of the categories I talked about are the ones I haven't. Which one would you like to see the Ducks improve on the most?
I think the biggest thing is just what you touched on, is about the 60-minute game. I'm okay with going out there, giving it your all, and if the other team does a little bit better, then they do better, or they get a lucky bounce, they get a lucky bounce. Sometimes those things happen. I think that's something that we missed for a while. I remember we used to joke before, not just you and me, Ollie out there listening, about the second period. That was like the Ducks would do great in the first period, then they would blow it in the second period, then have to fight their way back in the third period. And that used to just annoy the hell out of me, that they couldn't play a 60-minute game. Or even, it wasn't that, they would play good sometimes 40, 50 minutes, and then they would have a terrible 5-10 minute spell and get scored on a couple times. And I know it happens. Every team goes through that. Not every team can play 60 minutes, all the time. But the goal is you want to play at least 45, 50, 55 of those minutes as best you can. If you have a couple bad minutes, I get it. But when you have bad periods, that's discouraging. And I think, like I said, last year there was a lot of stuff going on. Stuff going on in the locker room, stuff going on with the coach, injuries, things like that. So it's going to be different this season. I think that if they can do that, and I think Dallas Eakins is a motivator for that, and it seems to have these guys more on track, I think they'll be all right. I do still think it's the beginning of the season. Trades, injuries, all kinds of things happen. But I think the Ducks do have a good chance of making the playoffs from what I've seen, everything I've been reading as well at this point. Of course, as we said, things can change. But, another thing that's also changing this season, Eddie, is the Ducks are going to have a new national anthem singer. You remember Dawn Wright had her surgery. She actually was successful in having that and it sounded like she was going to come back this season, but now she's not. Instead, they're going to have Tim Kepler in there. Another change for the Ducks organization. Kind of sad to see her go, but she wants to spend time with her family. And I don't blame her at all. You got to have priorities, and that's a pretty damn good one. So I get that. With her stepping out for a little bit, she said she may come back and fill in. But besides the stuff we talked about with the team and whatnot, what do you feel, the other change, Eddie? We're going to have a different singer now, too, at the arena.
Oh, things like that, I hate changes. It kind of bothers me. But, it's a national anthem. It's going to sound beautiful unless you're Fergie singing it. If you guys remember that atrocity of her trying to, I don't know what she was trying to do. But I heard him a few times from what I can remember last season, and he nailed it, too, as well. So I'm looking forward to having him be our full-time singer, and hopefully when he can't make it, we can get Dawn, sneak her in a few games, and we can definitely go and when she's there, scream Dawn as loud as we can. I don't know if we're gonna scream it when Tim sings it, maybe just in remembrance of Dawn. I think that'd be pretty cool. But welcome to Tim, and I'm glad that he's our new national anthem singer. And like you said, you can't really go wrong with the national anthem. It's beautiful, and I still get, shaken up a little bit listening to it, thinking of all my, friends and the military, and especially people I lost that gave their life up for this country. It's still it's hard to hold back tears sometimes, just sitting there and really, digesting those words and hearing them. So it's just, I'm glad that he's with the organization now permanently, and he's going to take on that role, and I think he'll do a fine job. And hopefully we see Dawn back a few games.
Yeah, I agree with you. It's just crazy. A lot of new beginnings for this team, whether it's the singer, the coach, different players. That's kind of the running theme. The only thing that is not going to change, that we've pretty much figured this one out. We had news about it before, and it came out again. Something that's staying, I don't know if it's necessarily staying the same, but it's coming back and not really changing that much, Eddie, is the Ducks' third jersey. It pretty much appears that they're going back to the orange one that they had from before. One of our listeners, Rick, he had bought it off eBay. I guess you could get it now, but it was leaked out on one of the Adidas websites earlier, and then that person deleted it off Twitter. We had written an article about it back in July, and now there's pictures of it coming out on eBay and more articles on it. And it looks like they're going to stay with that. A couple changes, obviously, the Adidas logo instead of the Reebok. They also changed the words Anaheim in gold from the outer part of the collar to the back of the inside of the collar. So not really a whole lot of changes with that. I like the jersey, but like I said, I'm kind of disappointed. I thought maybe they would try something different, but I guess with the 25th anniversary jersey last season, they just figured, hey, let's go back to this for now. And they'll probably change it later on.
I like the new Adidas orange jersey. I know it looks the same, similar, but there's differences in it. The collar looks more clean. The laces look more pressed. Looks more professional. And then the logo pops out too. You can see the silver from the beak. It looks nicer. And then on the side where the arms are, those little holes, I like that too. And the little Adidas holes that they put on the shoulders, I like it. The only thing I was disappointed is I wanted to see something a little bit different. Just, it's a new season, a new beginning, closed training camp. You're doing things different this season. New national anthem singer. Why not have a new jersey? I've been trying to mess with designs too, about having an all black one, like a version of this but black. So I'm still trying to mess with the designs, just to post it on Twitter and let you see what you guys think about that. I like the color black. I'm not gothic or anything, but I just like the color black. I think a black jersey with some little bit of orange trim with that Ducks logo would just make it pop. So, overall, I still like it. The only thing I would say bad about it is that Anaheim thing on the collar is a little too big for my taste. They should have made it a little bit smaller. But it's just, a good-looking jersey, and when it comes out officially, I'll probably buy one. $179, $180. Go to coolhockey.com. They have good jerseys and get it from there. So I'll probably get it. Probably get a blank one. I have too many names and players are leaving and hurting my feelings. I still love them, but it just hurts my feelings sometimes. I'm just playing. Well, so to wrap it up, this show we have for you today, we have some other league news. Send a happy birthday to Gritty. Remember this time last year, the Philadelphia Flyers announced they had a new mascot. It was Gritty, and everyone at first hated him and laughed at him, but everyone just all of a sudden started loving him, including myself. He's awesome, and what he does for the community too, he does a lot. Whoever runs that portion, they're really out there, so it's good for them. So happy birthday to him. Also, another news is Braden Point's 3-year bridge contract with the Tampa Bay Lightning, signed for $6.75 million. That's a hell of a steal. This kid could have got maybe closer to 9, maybe 8, but he took a team-friendly deal, so that's pretty good for him. Other RFAs, Matthew Tkachuk and Mikko Rantanen, they're both still MIA for their teams. Oh, also to include Laine from Winnipeg Jets. They're still, I don't know what their deal is and what kind of money they want. I know more about Rantanen. He's looking, I think, closer to the $9 million part, comparing his contract to Mitch Marner's, and I think that's, for his thing, it's kind of crazy because Nathan McKinnon makes 6.4. I think that much, I don't know, it's just weird. They have to figure it out. They're gonna miss, they're missing all the preseason, and these teams need to jump on these players and figure them out and get them signed. If you guys have been watching the preseason, Austin Matthews taunted one of the Senators players when he got into his face. He skates behind him and looks at the back of his jersey trying to figure out who he is. I thought that was just absolutely hilarious. I was thinking in my mind, that's like the best taunt of the preseason. Then former Ducks player Patrick Maroon had to just top that. First, he beats the crap out of Austin Watson. So, I mean, Maroon's not a girl, so okay, I'll skip that part. But as he's skating back to the Tampa Bay bench, he goes and he points at his ring finger, the Stanley Cup ring, to the Predators bench. And I thought that was just hilarious. And I don't know what they said to piss him off, but that just shut all of them down, because unless you have that ring for your city, I mean, he won it and he was a big part of it in St. Louis. So I think Patrick Maroon takes the taunt of the preseason, and that was just awesome. And then to close out, the final news is Dustin Byfuglien requested a leave of absence to figure out if he wants to continue playing hockey or not. I'm not a big fan of Dustin Byfuglien. I don't like the guy. I don't like some of his antics and the dirty stuff that he does. However, I don't know what's going on with him. If it's mental illness, if it's physical, or it's just the game's catching up to him. It's still unfortunate to see a player having to take that time and to contemplate his future playing hockey. He's leaving about $14 million on the table. It just, I don't know, whatever's going on. I hope things work out for him, and I hope he can either come back or he can retire on his own terms and have that peace of mind in it. The Winnipeg Jets did suspend him. People are flipping out, but it's just formality. It's to help him with cap situations. The Anaheim Ducks did the same thing with Scott Niedermayer when he was contemplating his retirement and he was still signed. So, as much as I don't like the guy, I hate to see that to a player, any player. I don't care who you are. I don't care if you're dowdy or quick too. It's unfortunate to see any player have to go down like that. So I send my best thoughts and wishes to him, and he figures everything out, and he can come back to play or have the peace of mind and retire.
Yeah, I agree with you. Like we talked about with Eaves too before, regardless if you like a player or not, hopefully that they can end their career the way that they want to. A couple other little things real quick here before we wrap up. Some DNP type news. We are going to have our watch parties again this season. The first one's going to be October 14th. It's Columbus Day. I kind of pulled you guys out there. I know some of you have it off, some of you don't. It's a 10 a.m. game against Boston. So we're going to have that going. Obviously, free stuff as usual at El Ranchito in Orange, 10 a.m. October 14th. That's a Monday. And then we'll have other dates coming out, so I'll put those out there as well. We also got a new provider for some of our gear. So we have shirts, sweatshirts, and hats that are with the DNP logo. You can check them out if you want. The short link will make it kind of easier for you. You can go to bit.ly/DNP gear. Again, that's bit.ly/DNP gear, and you can pick up some of the stuff on there. And also think about becoming a Patreon member too, patreon.com/DucksNPucks. We gave away tickets for all the preseason games this current week, and we're giving away games to the regular season on a monthly basis as well. So with that, we're glad to be back. Like we said, we're trying to do a show every single week. Thank you for the support. Let's go Ducks. Let's go Ducks.